My name is Marlon Morgan. I teach at James Madison Elementary School. I'm a middle school teacher for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science.
Okay. So just curious, what made you want to teach?
Oddly enough, everything that I have done in my adult life has surrounded itself around mentoring, training, educating young people in some facet. And just happened to come across an alternative certification program that would allow me to acquire my master's as well as teaching, and I just thought it would be a great opportunity to marry my passion for science as well as my passion for educating young people. So took advantage of that opportunity.
Okay. So, wow, that's interesting. So you have a passion for science. That's cool. You don't often hear that, especially the STEMs, particularly with African Americans. So what would you think would be your best moment as a teacher or professor thus far?
Best moment? Wow, there's so many. I guess my best moment had to occur this year when I had two of my students to advance to the city fair. So they won the school fair, then they won the area network fair, then they were able to advance to the city fair. And although they didn't make it beyond that point, I think the exposure did them a world of good. It opened their eyes even more to how to develop scientific thought. And I was extremely proud of those two young ladies.
Okay, gotcha. That's nice. I mean, as an educator, it's good to see your students moving forward and really taking the subject matter.
Absolutely.
I guess the inverse of that is, what has been your roughest moment as a teacher?
The roughest moment has been to see. It's almost like you see. Okay, let me give you this analogy. If you see someone that you care about and they're running blindfolded at top speed and you see a brick wall and you're doing everything you can to divert their attention, to get their attention, to have them to remove the blindfold, to see what's in front of them, to pay attention to what's going on, and to unfortunately see them run into the brick wall. And so I say that to say that probably last year was probably my most harsh year as a teacher, because within a 13-month span, I lost 3 students to the streets, to violence, to gun violence. And considering that, I've only been at that school in Madison for 7 years, going on my 8th year, to see all of that happening in that short window of time, extremely disheartening, and even more so to see the response of a lot of my students as this is normal, this is okay, this happens on a regular basis. And so it's hard for me even now because it's my passion. I'm passionate about one of my motivations are to help them to understand that this isn't normal. This shouldn't be acceptable. This shouldn't be the expectation of what life is and what life has to offer. So, those are my heart.
Wow. And wow, I mean, what do you say to that? And I mean, the fact that, like you said, some kids, if they treat it so normally, is even more disturbing than the act itself.
Right.
So kind of going from such extremes and now going into your 8th year, when you walk away from teaching, whenever that may be, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to think of when they think of Mr. Morgan as a teacher?
That I may learning from, that that I hope just to open your eyes to your ability to think, your ability to process things. To one of my key ideas for my classroom atmosphere is that it's okay to be wrong. You ask the question and you share what your thoughts are, and you're going to be right or you're wrong. But school is a place of learning, and so it's not the expectation that you come in with all the answers, but it is the expectation that you come in with thought, with some ideas. And if you come in with your ideas, then we can work on that. You know, if I know where you are, then I can guide you and steer you in a particular direction to help you find the answer, not to give you the answer. One of my mantras for teaching is I borrowed it from Khalil Gibran, and he said that a teacher who's wise doesn't tell his students what to think or how to think, but he leads them to the threshold of their own thought, so they can begin to process it and think it for themselves. So that's kind of where I am.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Thank you again, Mr. Morgan, for your time.
And I'm the Director of Pre-Graduate Programs here at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I work in higher ed administration with programs that are geared towards developing young undergraduate students to get them towards graduate study. I've also taught English as a second language in the city colleges for 12 years as well.
Wow. So what initially made you want to teach?
Well, actually, not necessarily want to teach, but just be totally involved in education. I taught ESL at Truman College just as a way to sort of get some teaching experience, but it was also turned into a way of giving back to the community, because a lot of students that were in my classes were students that were trying to improve their English so they could get better jobs and get better opportunities. One of the things that led me to education was when I was in school, I realized that a lot of black students that were coming to college with me were not graduating, or they were falling off. So if, let's say, 300 students had come in with me my freshman year, you know, out of those 300, maybe 103 graduated, or if not that. So what led me toward that was a question of asking, what are the attributes that are contributing to the reason that young black students are leaving higher ed. So that kind of led me into writing my master's thesis in educational policies at the University of Illinois at Champaign, about answering those questions, or asking those questions about what are the factors that make students at a predominantly white institution in particular drop out of schools.
Wow, that's a great way to lead into it. Now, you mentioned teaching 12 years ESL. What would you think was your best moment as a professor teaching that subject?
I guess the best experience is just the moment where the students actually get it. This moment where the students actually come back and tell you what they've done after they leave your class. While you're in class, you may not reach the student, or you may reach the student and they just won't say it. But I think one of the most rewarding experiences is when you don't expect them to come back and they just pop up out of nowhere and say, this is what I've done since I've left your class, and this is how working with you and the things that you taught me has helped me in my business, or helped me with getting a job, or helped me in my career. So that's one of the more rewarding things.
Oh, wow. And I always ask, because this one's even a tougher one, I kind of say, what was the most difficult moment being a professor teaching that subject?
The best, probably the worst or the most challenging would probably be students who have the potential but just don't utilize it. You know, a lot of outside circumstances affect how students operate in the classroom. Like the program that I'm working with now, we have undergraduate students that come in from all over the country and they work on research projects. One of the challenges in working with that program is that students don't understand the concept of actually learning. Undergraduate students are all about performance. What grade do I get? What's going to be my GPA? At the graduate level, everything is about knowledge. Do you know the material? Can you master the material? It's not about what grade you received. It's about the ability to articulate what you know. And that's one of the biggest challenges that they face. So that is a really challenging circumstance when they come with this performance mentality, like, oh, I just want the A. And the system is telling them, no, all you need is the knowledge, because you have students that can get an A in a class and not be able to tell you anything about what they've learned. They just happen to do well on the test. So yeah, the challenging part is to really get students to understand that learning is not about the actual grade. It's about the mastering of the knowledge that you're consuming and the ability to possibly create knowledge. That's one of the great things about working with students and guiding them towards graduate school. They not only consume knowledge as graduate students, but they also get to contribute. They create knowledge. They write dissertations and master's theses, and these types of things can articulate the knowledge that they've created or the knowledge that they've learned or what they add to the current scholarship that's out there. So getting them to that point in many instances is a real challenge.
Wow, that as someone who's went through UIC and just understanding undergrad, I agree 900%. And finally, and this is an interesting question, as an academic who's been an educator and on the administration side, what do you want your lasting legacy to be when people think of Mr. Bryson as an educator and or administrator?
Win. Just win. Understand the system. Education is not necessarily about what you know. It's about the system and how that system affects the dynamics we have in the world. So many times students just want grades and they don't want to know the system. One of the things I want to be known for is teaching students how to maneuver and navigate through the system of higher education. Higher education, just like corporate America, it's a structure, it's an institution, and it has dynamics, it has politics, it has cutthroat antics, it has all these different things that you have to master. The navigation in the higher ed institution is a must for people who really want to master it. So if you want to be involved with higher ed, whether it's a professor or an administrator, you have to know how to create alliances. You have to know how to work with people who may not necessarily like you, who may see things differently from you, who speak a different language, who don't come from your same background, your community. You have to sit at a table and solve problems with people that you've never worked with before. And that's the great thing about education, because it gives you the opportunity to grow in terms of helping you get those experiences. So I think that's one of the great things about it, and I want to be known for just helping students not only achieve their dreams, but helping them understand the mastery of the institution that they're going into. You can't go and play for the NFL if you don't understand the system. You don't understand the league. You can't play in the NBA if you don't understand if you truly don't understand how the marketing works, how the managers work, how the owners operate, how they think, how the draft is set up. When you know all of these things and you master those things, you not only become a good player, but you also become someone who could possibly go into managerial or even ownership later down the line. That's why Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson have done so well, because they've been able to master the institution, whether it's business, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the Owners League. They've been able to master those things. So not only do you become a product of the institution, but you also become a contributor. I tell students all the time, yeah, it's okay to play for the league, but it's also nice to own a team. It's okay to make a record or sing a record, but it would be nice to own the label. And these are the things I want our students to realize, that they have the potential to not just contribute, but to build and add on to what's already there.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bryson. Thank you again.
Thank you.